The spotlight hit James like a freight train, blinding him for a split second before the roar of the crowd crashed in. 2,000 voices screaming his name, the name they'd whispered like a curse behind closed doors. James! James! Encore! But he froze, heart slamming against his ribs, because there, in the front row, sat his parents. His father's face twisted in that familiar scowl of disbelief. His mother clutching her pearls as if they could choke back the tears she'd never admit to shedding. He'd made it. He'd fucking made it. And in that electric hush before the curtain call, James realized the stage wasn't just his revenge. It was the only place where the boy they called dumb finally got to breathe. James Harlan had always been the punchline in his own family portrait. The blurry kid in the background of every Christmas card snapshot from their sprawling ranch house in suburban Ohio. While his older brother, Ethan, aced Harvard Law on a full ride and his sister, Lila, jetted off to med school in Boston. James was the one who flunked algebra twice and spent his weekends sketching half-baked comic strips in the margins of his notebooks. Our little dreamer, his mom would say with that tight-lipped smile, but behind her back, she'd sigh to Dad, the dumb one. God help us if he ever amounts to anything, Dad. A stern accountant with a comb over that screamed midlife regret. Didn't even bother with euphemisms. Boy's got no spine, no smarts. Wastes his time on fairy tales. By 17, James knew exactly what they meant by fairy tales. It wasn't just the stories he devoured, Neil Gaiman's Shadowed Worlds or Augustin Burroughs' raw confessions of being the family oddball. It was him. The way his eyes lingered too long on the quarterback in gym class. The secret crushes on boys who'd never looked twice. Coming out in the Harlan household would have been like tossing a Molotov cocktail into a powder keg. Instead, James swallowed it down, buried it under layers of awkward silences and forced grins. He escaped to the local community theater, a dingy brick building on the edge of town where misfits like him could pretend to be someone else. There, amid the dusty props and peeling paint, he found his first taste of freedom, lines from Rent belted out in falsetto, the thrill of spotlights that didn't judge. But Ohio was a cage, even with its illusions. The summer after high school graduation, James packed a duffel bag with everything he owned. Faded jeans, a dog-eared copy of Angels in America, and $347 scraped from odd jobs, and boarded a Greyhound bound for New York City. "You're throwing your life away," his dad had barked over the phone, voice crackling like static. "Go chase your pipe dreams. See if I care." Mom had cried, of course, but it was the performative kind, the sort that evaporated the second he hung up. Ethan and Lila? Radio silence. James didn't blame them. Survival in the Harlan clan meant picking sides, and his was the losing one. The city swallowed him whole. First stop, a cockroach-infested walk-up in Hell's Kitchen, shared with 3 other wide-eyed transplants who rotated shifts at a diner called Ruby's, where the coffee tasted like regret and the tips barely covered the rent. James auditioned for everything, off-Broadway reviews, student films that paid in exposure, even a cat food commercial that demanded he meow with soulful authenticity. Rejections piled up like unpaid bills. Great energy, but not quite right. Too green. Call back next time. By month 3, he was down to ramen noodles and the kindness of strangers, sleeping on couches when the sublet fell through. That's when he met David. It was a muggy August evening at an open mic night in a basement theater called The Dive, tucked under a falafel joint in the East Village. The air reeked of sweat and cheap beer, the crowd a mix of pierced poets and jaded agents nursing whiskeys. James had signed up on a whim, his throat raw from practicing monologues in the mirror that morning. He stepped onto the makeshift stage, a plywood platform scarred with cigarette burns, and launched into a piece from the normal heart, channeling Ned Week's fury like it was his own. His voice cracked on the line about love in the time of plague, but he pushed through, fists clenched, eyes burning. When he finished, the smattering of applause felt like thunder. David was waiting by the bar afterward, all sharp jawline and effortless cool, nursing a gin and tonic with a lime wedge that matched the green flecks in his hazel eyes. He was 25, a year out of Juilliard, with a resume that included understudy gigs on actual Broadway and a modeling side hustle that paid for his Williamsburg loft. "That was raw," David said, sliding a stool over. His voice had that low, velvety timbre, like aged bourbon. "You nailed the rage. Most kids your age just play at it." James blinked, heat creeping up his neck. "Thanks." "Yeah. It's personal." He hadn't meant to say that oversharing was for therapy, not dive bars, but David's gaze held no pity, just a quiet nod, like he got it. They talked until last call. David shared stories of his own grind, the conservatory snobs who'd called his acting too queer-coded, the agent who dropped him after a leaked photo from a pride float. "They want authenticity until it bites them in the ass," David laughed. But there was steel beneath it. James confessed the Ohio exile, the family whispers that echoed in his head like bad reviews. By the time they stumbled out into the neon haze, exchanging numbers under a flickering street lamp, something had shifted. It wasn't just attraction, though God. David's laugh lines and the way his hand brushed James's when they hugged goodbye sent sparks straight to his gut. It was recognition. Two lost boys building fortresses out of spotlights and scripts. Their first date was a picnic in Central Park, because David insisted on romance, Harlan style. He'd packed falafel wraps from the spot above the dive and a blanket that smelled faintly of his cologne, sandalwood and citrus, the kind that lingered. They sprawled under an oak tree, watching joggers and dog-walkers blur by, while David read aloud from a dog-eared screenplay he'd co-written, a queer rom-com about two actors falling for each other mid-rehearsal. "Sound familiar?" he teased, his knee pressing against James's. James's pulse thrummed. "Only if the leads kiss like this." He leaned in, tentative, and David's lips met his soft and sure, tasting of salt and promise. The world narrowed to that point of contact, the rough wool of the blanket, the distant honk of taxis, the sun dappling through leaves like confetti. When they pulled apart, breathless, David traced a thumb over James's cheek. "Your trouble. You know that." "Tell me something I don't know," James murmured. And for the first time since stepping off the bus, he believed he might belong somewhere. Fall turned to winter, and their rhythm solidified. Mornings were stolen, coffee runs before David's callbacks, James crashing on his couch after late shifts at Ruby's, now upgraded to waiter, thanks to a tip from David's agent. Evenings blurred into rehearsals for a fringe festival production of a new play called Echoes in the Wings, where David starred as a washed-up director haunted by his closeted past. And James landed the role of his protégé, a wide-eyed ingenue with secrets of his own. The director, a wiry woman named Carla with a tattoo of Virginia Woolf on her forearm, called their chemistry electric. Offstage, it was more. Stolen kisses in the wings, David's fingers interlacing with James's during notes, whispers of "I love you" that felt too big for the tiny black box theater. But love in the city was a double-edged sword. James's phone stayed silent from home, save for a curt holiday card that arrived late, and signed except for Mom's looping script, "We pray you're safe." He shoved it in a drawer, but the ache festered. David noticed, pulling him close one snowy night on the fire escape, the city lights twinkling like distant fires. "They don't get to define you," he said, breath fogging the air. "You're a goddamn force, James. The stage knows it." "I know it." James wanted to believe him. God, he did. But doubt was a persistent understudy, waiting in the shadows for its cue. The betrayal came swift and surgical, like a director's red pen slashing through a script. It was mid-February, the festival buzz building toward opening night. James had scored a callback for a bigger gig, a workshop production of a queer adaptation of A Streetcar Named Desire at a Midtown rep company. David had been ecstatic, toasting with cheap champagne in their cramped dressing room. "This is it, babe. You're breaking out." That night, James worked a double at Ruby's, feet throbbing as he cleared plates of half-eaten burgers. His phone buzzed at closing, a text from an unknown number. "Hey, it's Lila. Mom's in the hospital. Heart thing. Come home?" Panic clawed up his throat. He called David immediately, voice shaky. "I have to go. Like, now." David was there in 20 minutes, hailing a cab to Penn Station while James threw clothes into his duffel. "I'll hold down the fort," David promised, kissing him fiercely on the platform as the train whistle wailed. "Text me when you land. Love you." Ohio was a frozen tomb. The hospital smelled of bleach and despair, fluorescent lights buzzing like angry hornets. Mom lay pale in her bed, tubes snaking from her arms, Dad pacing the hall with hollow eyes. Ethan was there, tie loosened, barking orders at nurses. Lila hugged James stiffly, whispering, "She asked for you." Specifically, the reconciliation was a fragile truce. Mom squeezed his hand, tears tracking down her cheeks. "My boy. We thought we'd lost you." Dad grunted something about family sticking together, clapping James's shoulder too hard. For 3 days, they played at normalcy, pot roast dinners, hushed talks of inheritance and getting back on track. James mentioned the play tentatively over coffee one morning. "It's off-Broadway. Queer themes, but powerful." Dad's fork paused midair. "Queer? As in?" The word hung like smoke. James swallowed. "Yeah. And I'm gay, Dad. Have been for years." Silence stretched, taut as a wire. Mom's face crumpled. "Oh, Jimmy." Ethan cleared his throat. "We'll pray on it." Lila just stared at her plate. He left on the 4th day, the callback looming like a lifeline. Mom pressed an envelope into his hand. $500 for the road, and whispered, "Make us proud, son." The train ride back was a blur of what-ifs, hope flickering against the hurt. David met him at the station, arms open, but the kiss felt off, rushed, shadowed. "How was it?" he asked, hailing another cab. "Complicated," James said, leaning into him. "But I'm home now." Opening night of Echoes was magic woven from nerves and nylon. The house was packed, critics in the back row, friends crammed into folding chairs. James's hands shook as he adjusted his costume, a rumpled Oxford that mirrored his character's vulnerability. David, in the role of the mentor, gripped his shoulders backstage. "We've got this. Break a leg. Love." The curtain rose, and the world dissolved. Lines flowed like blood, their scenes crackling with unspoken history, the mentor's hand lingering on the protégé's arm, eyes locking in a gaze that blurred fiction and truth. In the final act, as the characters confessed their love amid crumbling sets symbolizing lost dreams, James poured everything in: the Ohio dismissals, the city grind, the fragile bloom of this thing with David. The applause was deafening, a wave that lifted him. After, at the cast party in a Soho loft, champagne flowed and egos inflated. A producer cornered James. That chemistry? Gold. Let's talk streetcar. David beamed, clinking glasses. But as the night wore on, James noticed the glances. David's eyes darting to a tall blonde actor named Riley, fresh from LA, all chiseled abs and easy charm. Laughter shared over craft beers, a hand on the small of David's back. James chalked it up to networking, drowning the unease in bubbly. The callback was a triumph. Director's notes: Stanley Kowalski with a queer twist. You're perfect. Contracts whispered. Agents circling. James texted his family a grainy photo of the rehearsal space. Caption: Living the dream. Mom replied with a thumbs-up emoji, their first digital olive branch. But homecoming soured fast. David was distant, rehearsals overlapping with side gigs. One night, James came home early from a shift to find the loft dim, jazz crooning low. Riley's jacket slung over the couch. Laughter from the bedroom, David's, low and intimate. James's stomach dropped. He pushed the door open, and there they were, David shirtless, Riley's hands in his hair, lips locked in a kiss that shattered everything. Time fractured. What the fuck? The words escaped, raw and ragged. David jolted back, eyes wide. James, shit. It's not. Riley smirked, unapologetic. Hey, man. We were just. Get out. James's voice was steel, honed from years of swallowing pain. Riley shrugged into his jacket, sauntering past with a "Call me?" to David. The door clicked shut, and the silence roared. David reached out. Babe, listen. It was a mistake. One night. You're the one a mistake. James laughed, bitter. Like me, the dumb kid who believed you. He grabbed his duffel, stuffing clothes with trembling hands. You knew what this meant to me. After everything, my family, the play, and you throw it away for that? David's face crumpled. I'm scared. Okay, this town's a meat grinder. Riley's connected could get me that wicked understudy. I thought. Fuck. I don't know. Scared. James zipped the bag, chest heaving. Try being the gay son they called worthless, clawing for scraps in a city that chews you up. I gave you everything. And you betray me like it's just another audition. He stormed out, the elevator ride a descent into hell. Streets blurred through tears, neon signs mocking with their promises of forever. He crashed at Carla's, the director's pull-out couch a cold comfort. Texts from David piled up. Please. I love you. Come back. James deleted them one by one, each swipe a scar. Weeks bled into auditions. James threw himself into Streetcar, channeling the rage into Stanley's brute poetry. Brass knuckles of emotion. The betrayal, the family's half-assed acceptance, the love that curdled into ash. Critics caught wind early. Previews buzzed with raw newcomer steals the show. but the hollow victory echoed. Alone in his new sublet, a shoebox in Chelsea, he stared at the ceiling, David's cologne ghosting from a forgotten hoodie. Then, the call came. Not from an agent, but home. Lila's voice, tight. Dad's had a stroke. Bad. Mom's a wreck. He asked for you, James. Said something about the stage. The prodigal returns. He thought bitterly, booking the next train. Ohio waited, arms open or accusatory, he couldn't tell which. As the landscape blurred from skyscrapers to cornfields, James wondered if forgiveness was just another role to play, or if some scripts couldn't be rewritten. The hospital room was a sterile echo of the last visit, beeps syncing with the erratic thud of James's heart, the air thick with antiseptic and unspoken apologies. Dad lay propped on pillows, one side of his face slack, words slurring like a bad dubbing job. Jimmy. Boy. His good hand twitched toward James, veins mapping a lifetime of ledgers and regrets. Mom hovered, eyes red-rimmed, pressing a styrofoam cup of coffee into James's palm. He watched your play. The clip Lila sent. Kept muttering about lights. Said you looked like a star. James sank into the vinyl chair, the weight of it all crashing down. The clip, a shaky phone video from opening night, him mid-monologue. Sweat glistened under the lights. He'd sent it on impulse, a Hail Mary after the betrayal, hoping for what? Absolution? A crumb of pride? He did. Ethan paced by the window, arms crossed. Yeah. And now look. Strokes don't care about Oscars. James. There it was, the Harlan edge, blame wrapped in concern. Leave it. Ethan. Lila snapped, surprisingly fierce. She perched on the bed's edge, smoothing Dad's blanket. He's here. That's what matters. The days stretched into a vigil. James read to Dad from the local paper's art section, obits and high school sports, steering clear of Broadway buzz. Mom shared stories over vending machine sandwiches. How Dad had courted her with mixtapes in '78, bootlegs of Springsteen and Streisand. He dreamed big once. Wanted to act, you know. Community theater in college. But bills, baby. Life. James's throat tightened. The dumb son, inheriting ghosts he never knew. Evenings, he'd step out for air, wandering the hospital gardens where snow dusted benches like forgotten props. One night, his phone lit up not family, but David. Saw the news from Carla. I'm so sorry. Can I help? James stared at the screen, thumb hovering. Delete. But the ache bloomed fresh, a bruise pressed too hard. Back in the city by week's end, Dad stable, but fragile, James dove into streetcar rehearsals with feral intensity. The role of Stanley was a beast, raw masculinity laced with queer undercurrents, a man undone by desire and delusion. Director Theo, a bearish queer icon with a salt and pepper beard, pulled him aside after the first run-through. You're not acting it, kid. You're living it. What's fueling that fire? James hesitated, then spilled. The family drama, David's knife twist. Theo nodded, clapping his back. Use it. Art's the best revenge. The cast became his lifeline. Diverse souls in a pressure cooker. Marisol as Blanche, a Latina firebrand with a laugh like bells. Raj as Mitch, bringing quiet depth from his immigrant roots. They bonded over post-rehearsal tacos, sharing war stories of typecasting and tokenism. For the first time, James felt seen, not as the dumb kid or the betrayed lover, but as James, the artist. David's texts persisted, a drip of remorse. I fucked up. Therapy now. Miss your voice. James read them in the dark, heart warring with head. One midnight, buzzed on cheap Merlot, he replied, "Why?" The essay that followed, David's confession of panic. The industry's homophobia grinding him down. Riley as a stupid escape, landed like a gut punch. I never stopped loving you. Second chance? James didn't answer. Instead, he channeled it into the bedroom scene. Stanley's explosive confrontation with Blanche, but twisted, queer longing bleeding through the violence. A scream of "I don't want realism" that echoed his own pleas. Previews sold out, whispers turning to roars. The New York Times blurb dropped. Harlan Stanley is a revelation, visceral, vulnerable, a queer everyman clawing for truth. Fame's first nibble was intoxicating. Interviews trickled in. Podcasts where he dodged family questions with wry deflections. Photo shoots in lofts with skyline views. Agents called. Offers stacking like poker chips. But the high crashed when Mom phoned, voice quavering. Your father's asking about the play again. Sent for the paper. They ran a review. With your picture. James's blood chilled. And a pause, heavy as lead. He said he's proud. But the article mentioned, us being traditional. The word landed like a slap. Traditional, code for straight, safe. Harlan approved. Mom, I'm gay. It's not a phase. It's me. I know. Honey. We're trying. But Dad. He's old school. Give us time. Click. The fracture widened. James threw himself into the run. Each performance a catharsis. Bowing to thunderous ovations. Sweat-soaked and alive. Backstage. Bouquets piled up. Notes from admirers, you made me come out tonight. One stood out, a card in elegant script. Break a leg, kid. Always knew you had it. David. He'd come to a show. Slipped in anonymously. James's chest twisted. Anger, longing, a treacherous spark. After curtain, he texted, coffee? Neutral ground. The diner was a greasy spoon off Times Square. Formica tables scarred from decades of heartbreak breakfasts. David slid into the booth. Older somehow, lines etched deeper. Eyes shadowed. You were incredible. That rage. This is mine, too. James stirred his black coffee. Steam curling like questions. Doesn't make it right. No. It doesn't. David's hand inched across the table, retreating at James's flinch. I've been seeing someone, a therapist. Unpacking the bullshit. The fear of being the gay best friend, forever, not the lead. Riley was. Weakness. Your strength. Words James had craved. Too late. I can't just flip a switch. David. You broke us. I know. Voice cracking. David slid a folder over. Pages of a new script. His co-write. 2 steps from the wings. A story of actors navigating betrayal and Broadway's glare. Read it. For old times. No pressure. James took it. Fingers brushing David's, electric. Unwelcome. I'll think about it. Spring thawed the city. cherry blossoms rioting along the avenues like defiant flags. Streetcar closed to raves. James's name in lights for the first extended run. Parties beckoned. Galas at the Public. After hours at Feinstein's where Liza wannabes crooned standards. He dated casually, a barista with tattoos, a dancer whose flexibility promised distractions. But none stuck, ghosts of David lingering in every laugh. Family tensions simmered. Lila visited, crashing his sublet for a weekend of museum hopping and deep talks over dim sum. Dad's in PT, railing against the fairy therapist they assigned. But he watches your interviews. Smiles. Even. She paused, squeezing his hand. We're proud, James. Me, at least. The rest. They'll catch up or they won't. Ethan's olive branch came via email. A job offer at his firm, creative consulting for ad campaigns. James declined politely, thanks, but the stage is my boardroom. Mom sent clippings, underlined passages about his brave performance, progress, inch by inch. Then, the call that appended it all, Theo's voice, urgent. James, emergency read-through. Lead in the workshop dropped out, flu or coke. Who knows? It's yours if you want it. The Velvet Abyss, queer noir musical. Rehearsals start Monday. James's world tilted. The Velvet Abyss, buzzing off-Broadway darling. Songs by a Tony winner. Story of a cabaret singer entangled in a love triangle amid 1920s speakeasies. The lead, a magnetic crooner hiding his sexuality behind velvet curtains. It was tailor-made, a leap from Stanley's grit to silken vulnerability. But the dates clashed with David's script reading. He'd promised to consider it a tentative bridge. He said yes to the musical. Auditioned that afternoon in a borrowed tux, belting What'll I Do, with a tremble that sold the ache. Theo hugged him post-callback. You're a star, Harlan. Own it. Word spread fast. David's text lit up his phone. Heard about Abyss. Congrats. Readings off? James replied, yeah. Rain check. A white lie, but necessary. Space to heal. Rehearsals were a whirlwind. Choreography that left blisters. Harmonies stacking like Jenga towers. The cast was a queer tapestry. Trans composers, by choreographers, all weaving magic from marginalia. James bonded with the co-lead, Alex, a non-binary firecracker with a voice like smoked honey. Flirtations sparked, late-night script sessions dissolving into makeouts on the director's couch. But James pulled back, wary of echoes. Mid-rehearsal, disaster struck. A prop mishap, loose rigging during a dance number, sent a sandbag swinging, clipping James's shoulder. Crack. Dislocated, bruising blooming purple. The ER wait was eternal, morphine dulling the pain but sharpening regrets. Phone in hand, he scrolled to David's contact, thumb slipping, hey. Hurt. Could use a friend. David arrived in 20, face ashen, bearing takeout tie and a get-well teddy from some kitschy shop. Jesus. James. What happened? Stage hazard. James winced as the doctor popped the joint back, David's hand steadying his. They cabbed to the sublet, David fussing with ice packs and pillows like a pro. Stay, James murmured, exhaustion blurring lines. Just tonight, David did, curled on the couch's edge, their fingers laced in sleep. Morning brought awkward coffee, confessions over omelets. I miss this, David admitted. Us. The easy parts. Me too. James's voice was soft, treacherous. But the hard parts. They linger. David nodded, eyes glistening. I get it. No rush. He left with a chaste kiss on the forehead. But the air hummed with possibility. Recovery sidelined James for 2 weeks, PT sessions mirroring Dad's. Irony not lost. He flew home unannounced, needing Ohio's quiet to recalibrate. Dad was ambulatory now, shuffling with a cane, face lighting when James entered. Saw your name in lights. On the TV, gruff, but genuine. They talked, really talked. Dad's college dreams spilled. A botched audition for our town. Fear of poverty snuffing the spark. Called myself practical. But watching you. Damn, son. You're braver than I ever was. Tears pricked. I learned from the best. And worst. Mom hugged him fierce, whispering, we love you. All of you, no qualifiers. Ethan clapped his back. Lila grinned, family, fractured but mending. Back in New York, the velvet abyss beckoned. Full rehearsals. James's shoulder taped but spirit unbroken. The score was a siren call, torch songs of hidden loves, jazz riffs laced with longing. His first full run as Nico, the crooner, drew gasps, voice soaring, body weaving through shadows like smoke. David showed up to a stumble through, front row, applause thundering. Post-show, he waited in the alley, rain slicked. You're magic, James. Pure. Thanks for coming. Awkward. Charged. Dinner? Celebrate. David's smile tentative. James paused. Heart a drum solo. Yeah. Let's. The restaurant was intimate, candlelit bistro in the village. Plates of gnocchi and greens. Conversation flowed. Abyss anecdotes. David's new gig voicing an audiobook. Laughter bridged gaps. Wine loosening tongues. I forgive you, James said over tiramisu. The words a release. Not all the way, but enough to try. David's hand covered his. That's more than I deserve. They walked home hand in hand, rain pattering like applause. At James's door, the kiss ignited slow, deepening, bodies remembering rhythms. Clothes shed in a trail, skin meeting skin with gasps and sighs. David's mouth on his collarbone, James's fingers in his hair, reclamation, raw and reverent. They moved together, urgent then tender, whispers of sorry and love tangling in sheets. Dawn found them tangled, coffee brewing. Friends first, David proposed, tracing James's jaw. James nodded. Friends. With potential. Summer scorched the city. Rehearsals a sweat-soaked ballet. Abyss previews loomed. Tickets vanishing. James's star rose. Variety profile. Harlan, Broadway's new heartthrob. Fan mail surged. Invites to Pride panels. Family pride swelled. Mom's care package of homemade cookies. Dad's email. Tickets for opening? But shadows loomed. A tabloid whisper. Riley. Spilling tea on David's messy love life. Hit like shrapnel. Reporters sniffed. Questions turning pointed. Any truth to the ex-drama? James stonewalled. But doubt crept. David swore it was noise. But late nights found him scrolling scripts. Distant. Climax brewed in a matinee mishap. Mid-second act ballad. Veils of Night. Nico's aria of forbidden desire. A lighting cue failed, plunging the stage to black. Ad-libbing, James sang into void, voice carrying raw. But in the scramble, a stagehand, jealous understudy, tripped a flat, sending it crashing inches from David, guest starring as the rival lover. Chaos. Curtain down, medics swarming. David unscathed but shaken, James's adrenaline spiking. Backstage, accusations flew. Sabotage? Accident? Theo locked it down. Focus on the show. But paranoia festered. That night, over whiskey in the green room, David confessed, Riley's stirring shit. Wants payback for the dump. James's gut twisted, betrayals sequel. We end this, James said. Fierce. Publicly. Together, David blanched. Out us? The industry. Fuck the industry. James cupped his face. We're the story. Let them watch. The press conference was electric. Flanked by Theo, they announced, dating, stronger for the scars. Love isn't plot armor, James quipped, David's hand in his. It's the messy climax that makes the ending worth it. Headlines exploded. Broadway's bold lovebirds. Backlash hissed. Trolls. Purists. But support roared louder. Allies. Fans. A rainbow wave. Opening night of Abyss was apotheosis. House packed. Family in the mezzanine. Mom dabbing tears. Dad nodding along. James as Nico. Velvet voice unraveling hearts. Finale's kiss with Alex a triumph of fluidity. Ovation. 5 minutes. Bows blurring. After party at the afterglow of it all. David pulled James aside. You did it. We did. James grinned, pulling him close. Curtains up. Encore's ours. But life, like theater, twists. Months later, as Abyss transferred uptown, scans came back. Dad's shadow on his lung cancer. Stage 3. The call yanked James earthward. Mid-rehearsal. Come home, Mom begged. He did. David in tow, first family meet. Awkward but earnest. Dad, frail in his recliner, gripped David's hand. Heard you broke my boy's heart. Fix it. David swallowed. Trying, sir. Chemo vigils. James reading scripts aloud. David's arm around him. Laughter amid the grim. Mom's bad puns. Ethan's stories. Dad passed quietly. Spring fading to summer. His last words. Proud. Of the man you became. Grief was a quiet storm. But love anchored. Back in New York. James and David co-starred in 2 Steps. Their script, Betrayal to Redemption. Stages as Salvation. Reviews. A queer triumph. Tender and true. In the final scene, as characters embraced under lights, James whispered to David, off mic, this is us. Human. Messy. Enough. The curtain fell. Applause rose. And in that roar, James finally heard it, his own voice, undumb, unbroken. The transfer to Broadway was a fever dream. The velvet abyss ballooning from black box intimacy to a cavernous house at the Lyceum, where ghosts of legends like Merman and Lapone lingered in the rafters. James woke to marquees blazing his name, Harlan in block letters, a beacon that both thrilled and terrified. It's surreal, he confessed to David over room service eggs in their Midtown suite, the one perk of closing the deal with producers who smelled Tony bait. Like I'm waiting for the just kidding punchline. David chuckled, feeding him a strawberry. Nah. You earned this. We're earning it. Their rhythm had settled into something sturdy, mornings tangled in sheets, afternoons at the gym beating out choreography kinks, evenings scripting two-steps revisions by candlelight. David's therapy stuck. No more ghosts, just presence. But James caught him staring at reflection sometimes, that old doubt flickering like a bad cue light. Family anchored the chaos. Lila flew in for Tech Week, commandeering the guest room with med student efficiency, quizzing James on vocal warm-ups while Mom FaceTimed daily. Her garden updates a soothing liturgy. The peonies are budding. Reminds me of your opening night bouquet. Ethan, ever the pragmatist, handled Dad's estate with spreadsheets and sympathy, even wiring seed money for their production company dream. Grief for Dad was a tide now, ebbing to nostalgia, cresting in quiet sobs, but it humanized them, stripped the Harlans to bone and blood. Tech rehearsals were hellfire. Lights stabbing eyes, sound cues glitching like bad acid. The director, a visionary named Elena with a penchant for midnight rewrites, barking notes like a drill sergeant. Nico doesn't simper. James, he seduces the shadows. Alex, his co-star, ribbed him mercilessly. Babe, channel that post-breakup glow. It's gold. Their onstage chemistry sizzled. Kisses that lingered a beat too long, drawing whistles from the crew. But offstage, Alex's flirtations stayed playful, respecting the David bubble. The sabotage rumor from previews hadn't died. Whispers of a disgruntled stagehand lingered, but Elena quashed it with NDAs and extra security. Still, James felt eyes, Riley's shadow, or just paranoia. One night, post-half-hour call, a bouquet arrived, black roses, no card. David's jaw tightened. Burn them, they did, in the tub, flames dancing like accusations. Opening night descended like a crown of thorns and glitter. House sold out, critics shoulder to shoulder. Celebrities in the orchestra, a Succession alum, a pop diva nursing a martini. James's family filled a row, Mom radiant in emerald silk, Lila snapping candids, Ethan fidgeting with his program. David, understudy tonight, squeezed James's hand in the wings. Knock 'em dead. Love, curtain up. The overture swelled, brassy horns evoking speakeasy haze, and James stepped into Nico's skin. First act, velvet croon over piano keys, seducing the house with smoke and mirrors, his voice a caress that hushed the crowd. Duet with Alex crackled, tension taut as garters, their bodies orbiting in a tango of unrequited heat. Intermission buzz, Harlan's got it, Act 2 detonated. The abyss of the title, Nico's unraveling, cabaret crumbling under raids and revelations, his aria beneath the boards a gut-wrench of hidden loves exposed. James poured Dad's farewell into it, David's steady gaze from the wings fueling the fire. The kiss finale, Nico claiming his rival in a spotlight storm, Drew gasps, then thunder. Curtain calls, bows rippling like waves, James center to roars. Mom's tears from the seats, David's proud grin backstage. Champagne flowed at the party, Russo's on the plaza, chandeliers dripping light. Toasts clinked, Elena's to breaking ceilings, producers murmured Tony nods. A reporter cornered James. From Ohio nobody to this. What's the secret? He glanced at David, arm around his waist. Love. The kind that survives spotlights, but euphoria cracked at dawn. Hangover haze, David's phone buzzing insistent. He silenced it, but James glimpsed the name Riley. What the hell? David sighed. rubbing temples. Old shit. He's in town, pitching some film. Wants coffee, closure, he says. James's stomach nodded. Closure? Or round two? The black roses flashed. It's nothing. I told him no, but doubt slithered in, cold and coiling. The run settled into rhythm. 8 shows a week. Matinees bleeding into evenings. The grind etching lines on faces. James's star blazed. Playbill cover. Late night spot where he charmed Seth Meyers with Ohio anecdotes. David landed the wicked understudy dream. Elphaba's green shadow a thrill. But rehearsals pulled him away. Texts delayed. Betrayal's specter returned mid-fall. A leaked script page from 2 Steps, their baby, the reconciliation arc, hit gossip sites. Twisted. Harlan's ex spills on toxic set romance. Riley's byline. Anonymous source his venom. Forums erupted. David's the villain? James deserves better. James confronted him post-Wicked matinee. Stage door swarm parting like the Red Sea. You couldn't let it go? Riley smirked. All teeth. Truth hurts. Sweetheart. David's always been a climber. Uses boys like stepping stones. David. Arriving late. Face thunderous. Fuck off. Riley. It's done. But the damage seeped. Reviews for Abyss dipped. Petty jabs at offstage drama bleeding in. Elena called a meeting. Clean it up. Or we recast. James and David doubled down, joint interviews. A Them magazine spread. From fracture to full house. Vulnerability sold. David's apology unfiltered. James's forgiveness hard won. Fans ate it up. But privately, fissures showed. David's late nights networking. James's exhaustion snapping into accusations. Winter bit hard. Holiday break. James home for Christmas. David tied to Wicked standby. Ohio was bomb, mom's tree trimmed with heirloom ornaments. Lila's fiancé, a soft-spoken engineer, fitting seamless. They Skyped David in. His grin strained. Miss you, babe. Miss you too. But the lag felt like miles. Back on stage. Climax brewed. A blizzard shut the city. Canceling shows. Forcing cocooning. They hold up. 2 Steps revisions a lifeline. Rewriting the betrayal scene. David's character owning the hurt with a monologue that gutted James anew. It's cathartic, David said. Pen pausing. But scary. What if we can't outrun it? James kissed his temple. We will. Together, but together frayed. Tony noms dropped. James lead actor. Musical a golden ticket. David, snubbed. Understudy limbo stinging. Press junkets turned tense. David's smiles forced. James overcompensating with charm. One night, post-Guild Awards, James won. Champagne high crashing to fight. You're pulling away, James accused, pacing the suite. David deflated. It's the oversight. Feels like. Back to being the sidekick. You're not. James grabbed his hands. This isn't a competition, isn't it? Eyes wet. You shine. I fade. Words like knives. James stormed out. Snow whipping his coat. Wandering to the high line where rails overlooked frozen Hudson. Hours later, David found him, bundled and contrite. I'm an idiot. Scared of losing you to the lights. They reconciled in a snowbank kiss. Raw and real. Forgiveness a muscle. Flexed again. Spring bloomed Betrayal's final act. 2 Steps greenlit for off-Broadway. Readings electric. But during table work, David's phone chimed. A text from an unknown. Tell James hi. Or should I? Our attached photo. Damning David and Riley. Post-party clinch. Timestamped last month. James's world imploded. Rehearsal halted. He fled to the alley. Vomit burning throat. David chased. It's fake. Photoshopped. Bullshit. James hurled the phone. How many times? David? How many mistakes? David crumpled. One. God. One stupid night. I was drunk. Mad about the noms. Hated myself after. The truth landed like eviction. You hate yourself? Try loving someone who keeps handing you broken glass. James walked away, the city a blur of betrayal redux. He crashed with Alex. Nights drowned in gin and rent sing-alongs. Therapy sessions unpacked the pattern. Seeking love from wounders, echoing family dismissals. You're worthy, Alex insisted. Of spotlights and steadiness. Abyss closed triumphant. Tony win for James. Speech a tearjerker. To the dumb sons, the dismissed hearts, this is for you. But victory hollowed. David a ghost. Summer healed slow. James workshopped two-step solo. Rewriting David's arc into redemption earned. Not given. Riley sued for defamation, dismissed fast. His lies unraveling. David vanished to L.A. Space to grow. Fall brought olive branches. David's letter. Handwritten. 20 pages. Apologies etched in ink. Therapy breakthroughs. Plea. Not for us. But for you, I'm better now. James read it on Central Park bench. Tears salting pages. Forgiveness? Not yet. But possibility. The humanistic turn came unscripted. A callback for James. Lead in a revival of angels in America. Millennium approaches prior to the gay epic. Additions gutted him, but he landed it. Tony Kushner's words a mirror to his soul. Rehearsals overlapped with two steps mounting James' dual roles. A masochist's dream. David auditioned for the companion piece. Perestroika. Director, a wry queer elder, cast him opposite. Fate's a bitch, he quipped. First read. Electric tension. Lines crackling with history. Post-table. David lingered. Proud of you. Always was. James nodded. Throat tight. You too. No grand reunion, just work. Words bridging. Weeks in. A scene parallel. Pryor and Belize. Tenderness amid plague. Off-book. Their eyes met. And James felt it. Love not as fireworks. But hearth. Closing night of two steps. Sold-out house. James's family cheering. David as co-lead shown. Betrayal beat into beauty. Bow hands clasped. The crowd roaring. After. Rooftop party, stars pricking Manhattan sky. David pulled James aside. Act 2? If you're game. James smiled. Slow. Let's improv. Their kiss was quiet. Profound. Seasons of hurt distilled to hope. No spotlights needed. Just them. Human and whole. The dual run was a high-wire act without net. Angels in the evenings at the Neil Simon. A cathedral of velvet seats and history. Two steps matinees at the smaller Laura Pels, where intimacy amplified every breath. James shuttled between theaters like a man possessed. Scripts dog-eared in his messenger bag. Coffee fore-dripped into veins. You're a machine, Lila teased during a rare brunch, her ring glinting under sunlight slanting through the cafe window. But machines burn out. Delegate, he tried. Hired an assistant, a sharp queer kid named Theo, no relation to the streetcar Theo, thank God, who juggled calls and kale smoothies. David, in Perestroika's orbit, mirrored the madness. Understudy for Roy Cohn by night, Two Steps lead by day. Their paths crossed in green rooms and Euro trucks. Conversations clipped but kind, notes on blocking, jokes about Kushner's footnotes. No pressure, no promises, just the quiet rebuild of trust. Brick by tentative brick. Reviews for Angel's revival were a love letter to lightning. Harlan imbues Pryor with heartbreaking buoyancy. A gay phoenix amid ashes. Box office boomed. Tourists queuing for the epic's 8-hour sprawl. James's Pryor Walter was a revelation, witty, wounded, his AIDS-ravaged body, prosthetics and makeup a daily ritual, a defiant banner. The throne scene, hallucinating angels in a whirlwind of projections, left audiences gasping, weeping. Tony Buzz hummed louder, lead actor again. But this time, legacy weight. David's perestroika arc shone too. Belize's compassion in his hands became a sermon on forgiveness. His chemistry with James's Pryor a meta-layer of their own mending. Critics noted it, Two Steps and Angels. Harlan and David's last name as Broadway's new power duo? Fans shipped them online. Edits of curtain calls set to hosier tracks. James scrolled sometimes, a pang mixing with pride. We're accidental icons, he quipped to David over falafel post-rehearsal. David's laugh was warm. Better than intentional train wrecks, but undercurrents stirred. Riley's shadow lingered, a countersuit dismissed, but his podcast rants painted David as Broadway's serial heartbreaker. Sponsors pulled from Two Steps. Whispers of toxic vibes. Elena, the Steps director, called crisis huddles. We pivot to the love story. Lean in. They did improv scenes of reconciliation. Audience cue and as where James and David shared, sanitized, truths, betrayals the villain, grace the hero, family wove tighter. Mom relocated part-time to a one-bedroom in Murray Hill. To be near my star. Her presence was a soft invasion. Laundry folded with notes. Proud of you. Always. Sunday suppers of meatloaf and confessions. Your father. He regretted the words. Called you dumb to hide his own fears. James held her, the Harlan armor cracking fully. Ethan proposed a foundation in Dad's name, art scholarships for overlooked talents, queer youth prioritized. Lila designed the logo, a stage curtain parting to rainbow light. Legacy, she said. Yours and his. Climax crested in spring fever. Angels hit a milestone. 500th performance. Gala black tie with Kushner toasting. James, you make angels weep. David attended. Tux sharp. Arm linked with James's on the carpet. Paparazzi flashed. Boys. A kiss for the ages. They obliged chaste. Cheek peck, but the tabloids spun fairy tales. That night, after party at the Rainbow Room, skyline sprawling like a promise. David pulled James to the balcony, jazz swinging below. This us, it's real, right? Not just for the show. James's heart stuttered. Real as it gets. He kissed him then, deep and deliberate, the city humming approval. They tumbled into the suite, bodies rediscovering maps, slow explorations, laughter gasping between moans. David's hands on his hips, James's nails raking back. Mine, whispered fierce. Dawn found them sated, fingers traced promises on skin. But drama, ever the diva, demanded spotlight. A week later, During Perestroika's pillbox hallucination, David collapsed mid-scene, fever spiking, breath ragged. Understudy stepped in. House lights up as medics whisked him away. Diagnosis: pneumonia, aggressive from a lingering flu. Rest, doctors ordered. No shows. David hated it. Couchbound in James's sublet, Mom's now, with her knitting and chicken soup. Remote clutched like a grudge. I'm useless, he grumbled. Channel surfing award recaps. You're healing, James countered, curling beside him. Let me carry you for once. He did, covering step solos with Alex subbing. Angel's runs fueled by adrenaline. Visits from castmates. Elena with scripts. Kushner with dog-eared Angel's editions. Mom mothered David shamelessly. Eat. Skinny. Stars need fuel. Laughter echoed. But nights. James watched David sleep. Fear a thief. What if this city, this life, broke them irreparably? Recovery was a tango. 2 steps forward, 1 back. David returned too soon, voice cracking on Belize's monologues. But grit pulled him through. Their onstage reunion, Perestroika's forgiveness arc, drew sobs, meta magic. Offstage, it mirrored David in therapy, unpacking climber instincts, James in his own sessions, voicing the dumb son scars. Summer sulked humid, shows winding down. Angels extended, but 2 steps eyed closure, producers eyeing tours. Over rooftop beers, David proposed, LA, pilot season. We co-write the screen version. James hesitated. New York was roots, family nearby, the stage that birthed him. Maybe. But not yet. One more act here. Autumn gilded the leaves. Tony's looming. Nominations. James for Angels. David supporting for Perestroika. Dual nods. History-making. Rehearsals amped. Polish runs. Press prep. A joint variety shoot. Them in ethereal white. Wings photoshopped faint. Headline: Angels Among Us. Harlan and David soar together, but conflict clawed back. An ex of Riley's, embittered producer, leaked sources. David relapsed during illness. Hookups in hospital. Lies. Vicious. Social media ignited. Cancel David trending. Sponsors fled steps. Elena in tears. We can't survive this. James raged. Public statement with David. Smears don't define us. Love does. Lawyers looped in. Defamation suits flying. But the toll mounted. Death threats. Stalkers at stage doors. James's anxiety spiked. Panic attacks pre-curtain. Breaths shallow as Pryor's decline. David broke one night. Post-show. In the tub. I poison everything. You deserve clean. James knelt. Water sloshing. You deserve clean too. We're in the muck together. That's the point. Humanity's thread. Support surged. Glad rallied. Kushner penned an op-ed. Queer stories thrive on scars. Fans camped stage doors with signs. We believe you. Mom organized a prayer chain, secular, with candles and calls. Lila hacked the trolls bots. Ethan fundraised legal fees. Tony's night. Radio City. A spectacle of sequins and suspense. James and David. Seats side by side. Hands clasped under skirts. Supporting actor. David's name called. He rose. Kiss to James's cheek. Speech a masterclass. To betrayers and believers. This wins for the boys who loved anyway. Ovation thundered. Lead actor James. Stage swallow. Words tumbling. For Dad, who dreamed on silent stages. For David, who taught me forgiveness isn't weakness. For every dismissed kid, this light's yours. Afterglow, party hopping, champagne rivers. A quiet moment in a coat room. David, teary. I almost lost this. You didn't. James held him. We're the encore. Fall deepened. Show's closing. Angels bowed out with a final pillbox vision. James's prior ascending. Angels parting. Steps toward whispers. But they opted rest, LA on horizon. But first, a Harlan holiday redux. Thanksgiving, Ohio redux. Mom's table groaning. Ethan toasted. To family, blood and chosen. David fit. Carving turkey with Dad's old knife. Stories flowing. Lila announced pregnancy. Aunt James incoming. Laughter healed. Winter whispered endings. 2 steps screen deal landed. Netflix. Queer leads intact. James and David co-producing. Scripts shipped cross-country during David's pilot auditions. But the true close. A quiet ceremony. Dad's ashes scattered at the old Ohio Theater. Snow soft. Family circle. David beside. He'd like you, Mom said. The Man Who Stayed. Spring 2026. LA sun. But New York hearts. Their pilot greenlit. Spotlight hearts. Metaqueer dramedy. James guest stars. David leads. On set. First table read. Lines of love reclaimed. Break. David to James. Ring box subtle. Act 4. Marry me. James. Breathless. Cue the yes. Wedding. Intimate. Central Park gazebo. Rainbow officiant. Mom's peonies. Lila's vows as witness. Vows. In betrayals and bows. I choose you. Honeymoon. Ohio cabin. Then city lofts. Life unfolded. Adopts a rescue mutt. Writes memoir. Dumb sun rising. Mentors at queer youth theaters. Years blur. Tony's stacked. Kids via surrogate, twins. One named Harlan. David directs. James acts, stages. Screens. Always together. The dumb kid, a legend. Dismissed no more. The stage. His throne. Love. His crown. Human. To the end. Decades don't dim spotlights. They polish them, burnishing edges until the glare reveals every flaw and facet. By 2045, James Harlan Davidson was a name etched in Broadway lore, a silver fox emeritus with laugh lines like parentheses around his triumphs. The loft in Chelsea, expanded now, with a nursery wing and a wall of playbills framed like battle honors, overlooked a city that had bent but never broken him. David, grayer at the temples but no less magnetic, patted in with coffee, 2 mugs steaming. Black for you? Oat milk latte abomination for me. James grinned from the bay window, script in lap. A new musical, echoes eternal, workshopping his return as a weathered diva confronting ghosts. Still judging my millennial habits? Every damn day. David kissed his temple, lingering. Their rhythm, after 30 years, was a well-worn score. Mornings plotting world domination, their production company, Harlan Echoes, had launched a dozen queer hits. Afternoons at the gym or mentoring sessions at the youth center they'd founded, Dumb Sons United, scholarships and stages for the overlooked. Evenings, family dinners, twins Mia and Theo, named for the director who'd believed first, home from college, regaling with tales of their own grinds. Mia directing off, Theo coding VR theater. But nostalgia's pull was strong that autumn. The 20th anniversary of The Velvet Abyss loomed. A gala revival. One night only at the Lyceum. Full cast reunion. Invites had flown. Alex headlining now. Elena directing encore. James and David as honorary producers. But whispers pushed, "Come back on stage." The Kiss reprise it. David balked over reheated pad thai. "We're not relics, babe. Let the kids carry the torch." James set down his fork. "Or we show 'em how it's done." One last dance. The decision simmered, bubbling up during a family Zoom. Mom, spry at 82, in her Ohio bungalow, Lila and Ethan's broods spilling chaos. "Do it," Mom urged, pearls glinting. Your father would have crowed. Dad's absence, a decade plus now, was a soft ache. Honored yearly at the Foundation's galas, scholarships doled to dumb sons turned stars. Rehearsal invites accepted, tentative. First stumble through, ghosts everywhere. The old set, dusted off, speakeasy bar with velvet stools, Nico's mirror cracked but gleaming. Alex, now with silver streaks and a spouse in the wings, hugged fierce. You old bastards. Still got the moves. Moves they did. James slipped into Nico's tux. The fabric forgiving middle-age spread. Voice holding that smoky timbre, aged scotch to velvet silk. David, as the rival, traded lines with a wink. Miss me, crooner, like a bad review, but the duet crackled. Bodies remembering proximity, the kiss cue landing soft, profound. Elena wiped eyes. Magic. Pure. Word spread, rehearsal footage leaked, benign. Joyful. Tickets vanishing for the gala. Press piled. Variety profile. Harlan Davidson. Love's long run. They posed for shoots, embrace on the Lyceum steps. Rings glinting, speaking truths. Betrayal was our inciting incident. Everything after? Plot twist. But conflict. Life's stubborn understudy. Queued up. David's checkup routine. Post-pneumonia vigilance, yielded shadows. Early prostate. Treatable but timed. Chemo during gala? He joked. But eyes shadowed. James's gut clenched. We postpone. No. David's hand firm. This is our bow. Face it full. Treatments slotted post-revival. But the shadow loomed. Echoes of Pryor's plague. Dad's fade. James channeled it into Nico. Vulnerability veined with valor. The aria beneath the boards now a meditation on enduring love. Rehearsals deepened. Cast sensing the undercurrent. Support unspoken. Hugs lingering. Gala night. Electric hush. House a who's who of theater titans. Family front row, mom beaming. Grandkids fidgeting with programs. Backstage. David adjusted James's bow tie. Fingers trembling faint. Here's to us. To encores. Kiss. Steadying. Overture swelled. James entered as Nico. Spotlight warm as embrace. Crowd rising pre-curtain. Ovation preempted. Act 1 flowed liquid. Song soaring. Dances crisp with youth energy tempered by Vet's gravitas. Intermission. Notes minimal. Elena's perfect a benediction. Act 2. The Abyss. Nico's unraveling, raids symbolic now, of time's inexorable march. Duet with David. Tension taut. Love's friction electric. The kiss. Not scripted passion, but lived, lips meeting with the weight of years, tears salting skin. House silent, then erupted. Finale. Full cast in tableau. Nico claiming light. Bows, thunder. Flowers raining. James and David center. Arms linked. The roar a tide lifting. After party. Tavern on the green. Fairy lights twinkling. Toasts cascaded. Kushner's immortal. Alex's mentors. Mischief makers. Mia and Theo clinked glasses. Dads, you're legends. Quiet corner. David to James. Worth it. Every cue. But David's pallor betrayed chemo's eve. Dawn home. They packed a hospital bag. Jokes masking fear. Treatment started. Infusions. Nausea battled with ginger tea and rent marathons. David rallied, bald cap for laughs. Voice memos directing from bed. Don't let Elena fluff the eternal workshop. Months blurred. Good days scripting. Bad ones Netflix binges. Foundation expanded. Dumb Sons chapters nationwide. Queer elders mentoring youth. James's echoes open to raves. His diva a valediction. Aging's not fade out. It's fade into wisdom. Remission came spring, scans clean. David whooping from the MRI table. Cue the party. Celebration. Family barbecue. Ohio roots. Mom's peonies bloomed defiant. Grandkids chasing fireflies. Ethan grilled. Lila shared ultrasound pics, New Harlan en route. David, hatless and hale, pulled James to the porch swing. Act 5. James leaned in. Infinite. Years stacked like scripts. Twins graduated Mia's off-Broadway hit. Theo's VR Angels Emmy nod. Harlan Echoes produced a queer Hamilton rival. Liberty's Sons. James and David guest starred. Cameos in each other's worlds. Always. Elder turns. Retirements honorary. Masterclasses packed. A Lifetime Achievement Tony. Shared podium. David first. To the dumb kid who stole my heart. And the stage. James. Loves the greatest role. No understudies. Final act whispered late. David's heart. Worn from wars. Hospice gentle. Loft sunlit. Family rotated stories. Songs. Last night. James beside. Holding hand. Best plot twist, David murmured. You. Curtain together. Kiss. Soft. David slipped at dawn. Angels waiting. Grief's intermission. Months of fog. James adrift. But stages called guest spots. Foundation helm. Memoir sequel. Encore hearts. Decade on. James at 70. Gray mane a crown. Gala for David Spotlight Hearts film restored. On stage. He speaks. He called me dumb once. In jest. But I was his star. We all are dismissed. Betrayed. Risen. Spotlight warms. Applause rises. James bows. Alone but legion. Fade to black. Human. Eternal.